premier poker tournament on the planet began as a numbers game. 2,576 players, 240 poker tables, 7 grueling days.
Let's play poker.
Now the magic number is 9. 9 players remain, each with a chance to be the one to capture the richest prize in poker or sports history. $5 million.
That'll be such a life-changing experience.
Yes! We can gamble. This is war. We are playing for $5 million. Think we're playing tiddlywinks?
Winning the World Series of Poker, being able to say for 1 week I was the best player, that's what I want.
I need an ace, baby! Come on, baby! Yeah!
Now only 2 numbers matter. One champion, $5 million. The end is near. The final table is now.
Yes!
Welcome to the grand finale of the 2004 main event of the World Series of Poker presented by Miller High Life. For 35 years, the Horseshoe Casino was housed to one event that guarantees poker immortality. The main event champion forever remembered in the gallery of winners. Players like Johnny Chan, the last man to win back-to-back championships, and Stu Unger, who won the main event 3 times over 18 years. Now 9 players remain, vying for poker greatness and a record $5 million. Hello everybody, I'm Lon McCarron alongside Norman Chad. Of the players still standing, only Dan Harrington can already be considered a legend of the game. Tonight he's sitting at his 4th main event final table dating back to 1987. He won it all in 95 and he just keeps getting stronger, Norm.
In fact, Lon, his last 2 years are mind-boggling. Last year there were 839 players here. This year 2,576. Making it to the final table in back-to-back years against those numbers arguably is the greatest accomplishment in World Series history. And if he wins it all, there is no argument.
Right now, Dan sits in the middle of the pack with about 2.2 million chips. The short stack at the table, the screaming Swede, Mattias Andersson. Going around the table in ascending order, Mike McLain has almost 900,000.
Al Krux remarkably has made the main event final table 3 times in the last 15 years. David Williams at age 23 could become the youngest winner ever of the main event.
Glenn Hughes is just ahead of Dan Harrington, 4th in chips. And Josh Arieh, 3rd place right now with 3.2 million.
And second youngest at the table is Matt Dean, who is also 2nd in chip count, behind Greg Raymer, who has 1/3 of the chips in play at this final table.
The blinds right now at this championship table, 25,000 and 50,000 and a 5,000 chip ante from each player.
It's a new day in poker, Lon. 4 of the 9 at the final table are 20-somethings, 5 of the 9 qualified online.
Mike McLain on the Miller High Life Pocket Cam looking at aces. Good morning to you, final table.
1 year short stack, there's no greater sight than pocket aces, Lon.
McLain comes out with 150,000. Josh Arieh with a couple of rags in the hole.
I hate fold.
He does hate folding. He's a young Sammy Farha, loves to see flops, loves being aggressive.
Over to our chip leader, Greg Raymer, a pair of 10s in the hole.
We can barely get to his cards on the other side of the chips.
You gotta put the glasses on first, Greg.
And Greg Raymer will make a raise to 500,000. Action 2, action Dan Harrington, who declines the action. Now back to McLain.
Oh, McLain's just thinking, how quickly can I double up with aces?
I'm all in.
And he's going to try exactly that.
Call.
And Greg Raymer will call him.
That's right, good job.
And Mike McLain all in for his tournament life, a 4-1 favorite right now with his pocket aces against Raymer's 10s.
And our first flop of this championship table. Wow, what lucky star is Raymer born under? 3 10s.
That's one pained look for a man with pocket aces.
Oh, Mike McLain on the turn now. No help with the 8 of spades.
So to stay alive in this tournament, Mike McLain will need a river ace. If a 9 comes up, they'd both have a straight, and it'd be a split pot.
River card's a king, and that's going to close it out for Mike McLain. He represented the agony of defeat last year. Now in 2004, he is the first man gone from our final phase.
That's just bad luck. You deserve that, man. You deserve it.
Such a class from Fossil Man there. He knows he was blessed on that hand.
And there is Cheryl Raymer enjoying the action as her husband keeps his third brick on the final table for this No Limit Texas Hold'em main event. Here are the Miller High Life rules for Texas Hold'em. Each player is first dealt 2 down cards. A round of betting then occurs. As players players decide for the first time if they're in or they're out. Then come the community cards with the flop, the turn, and the river with a round of betting after each. In the end, the best 5-card combination wins the hand and takes the pot. We continue now with 8 players at this championship table. And there, again, the screaming Swede, Mattias Andersson. Short stacked, but nice cards. Ace-King unsuited. And Andersson pushes all in with his 670,000.
That was fast.
That was fast, but with his short stack and those cards, Mattias is not going to fool around.
And Josh Arieh will fold, as will Al Krux. Over to Greg Raymer, who just knocked out Mike McLain. And Raymer with ace-10.
Call.
He's going to try to do the same to Mattias Andersson.
Mattias will have company. And now he's preparing for his river dance.
Raymer was a big underdog to McLain. He is a big underdog here, but Mattias, tournament life at risk.
No 10, no 10! Come on, K!
Well, he had a lot more than I thought he would have there. I thought he might have raised there with any ace.
Now the flop. Andersson and Raymer. Queen, 7-9, no 10 in there.
No 10!
Mattias is safe at the moment.
The turn card, Jack, both now with straight draws.
Yeah, Mattias is not out of harm's way yet. Raymer can knock him out with a king or an 8 on the river for a straight.
Now the river card. Oh, it is an 8! Greg Raymer makes his queen high straight and knocks off a second player here at the championship table.
So that's what Mattias Andersson sounds like when he loses an all-in. So Fossil Man living large, knocking off 2 straight players in hands in which he started as a big underdog.
Andersson part of a big contingent of foreign players at the World Series, but the only one to make the final table goes away in 8th place.
The World Series of Poker is brought to you by Milwaukee's Best Light. Milwaukee's Best Light, brewed for a man's taste. And the Toyota Tundra Double Cab, not just big, life-sized. And Arizona Premium.
Just downstairs from the final table in the vault, they are preparing the $5 million in first prize money, loading all of that cash into cardboard boxes, as is the tradition here at the Horseshoe for the World Series of Poker. And they need a lot more boxes this year, Norm. The Toyota chip count shows Greg Raymer almost 10 million chips, Matt Dean in second, Al Krux the only one under $1 million.
I talked to Al Crux's son just before we started, Brian, and he told me his father was going to sit back early and let everyone else chop each other up, but he's getting pretty short stacked, so pocket sixes look pretty good.
Good enough for a bet of $250,000 from Al Krux, his wife and family looking on intently from the bleachers. Action over now to Greg Raymer. He's got an ace and a king. I think he might be in this hand.
Well, Fossil Man eyeing his next prey.
Asking for a count on the chips of Al Krux.
865 total.
Greg Raymer will bet 865, and what that does effectively will force Al Krux to go all in if he wants to call. The rest of the table folding. Now back to Al Krux for that decision. And he's going to go all in.
Third straight time, Fossil Man's trying to take out somebody as an underdog. This time it's almost a coin flip.
I don't know what to cheer for. I like the Al.
Going to the flop, just about even, and it's 4-9. Jack Raymer gets no help.
Krux now a 4-1 favorite as we go to the turn.
Come on, what's he winning again? And the turn card, oh, it's an ace. Raymer now in the lead with 2 aces.
Fossil Man is on fire. This is incredible line. Al Krux down to his last card. He can still win with a 6, or he's picked up a spade draw.
Oh, he got the spade. Oh, what a turn of events, 2 turns of events.
Turn out.
Well, that hand and poker in general is full of ups and downs, and that was definitely a big up for Krux and his family.
Well, they're vigorous in their support, I'll tell you.
His family has had plenty of highs and lows over Al's poker playing career.
At certain times I wish that I could have done something in a lawyer or a doctor or something of schooling, because the heartaches really are difficult when you get kicked in this profession. Through the years with my family, I was paying the bills by playing poker. If those chips mean your grocery money, you go bad for a few months, it really hurts. This is where I've been many, many, many times. Having the family here is really great. Watching their father play poker for all these years, and all I can see is putting a smile on their faces. If I got the money, that's fine. I mean, they're all going to enjoy it. But they've seen their father through the hard times, and I mean, it'd be just huge to be able to give this to them.
Al Krux has played the father role here at this championship table, hoping to win one for his family. And there's the son, as it were, David Williams, hoping to make his mother proud. Shirley has been a constant presence here at the Horseshoe.
And there, the front row seat, Marcel Lusk, last man out before the championship table, who of course has become somewhat of a mentor for David Williams during this tournament.
David's got his game face on and a couple of fives in the pocket. He wants to play them.
And David now the short stack at the table, about $1.5 million chips total.
Comes out with 120,000. Josh Arieh next to act.
I raise.
With a suited ace-king.
500.
Al Krux gets out of the way. So does Dan Harrington, Glenn Hughes. Now the action back to David Williams.
To call this, David Williams would have to put in about 1/3 of his remaining chips.
And that's exactly what David Williams does.
Check in the dark. Announce that.
He dark checked.
Williams checks blind, a la Marcel.
And now the flop. Oh, and a set of fives for David Williams.
Action to Josh, who's picked up a pair of aces.
All in.
Oh, and the immediate call from David Williams with his set. Josh is disgusted. David Williams, who is all in, has commanded his hand.
And Shirley Williams loves what she sees. David goes over to share the jubilation with Marcel Lusk. But this hand is not over yet. We've got the turn. And oh, what a card to hit Josh. 3 aces, but Williams with a full house.
What a joke. He's got 1.5 million and he calls 500,000 with 2 fives.
What a joke is Josh's tableside manner. Josh still can knock Williams out of here with a river ace, king, or 6.
Williams wins the hand. And the Williams entourage going nuts. And David going over to Marcel. Acknowledging the dark check.
And as he did with Harry Demetriou and Matt Dean in previous sessions, Josh Arieh insists on belittling his opponent's play.
I felt it.
And now David Williams is feeling pretty good.
The World Series of Poker presented by Miller High. Main event.
Well, all the money, $5 million worth, has been packed up in the brown cardboard boxes. And security getting ready to bring it upstairs. Greg Raymer with hole cards of ace-jack will raise 160,000.
And he goes to his routine, fossil on top of his cards, glasses on top of his nose.
Over to Dan Harrington, the 1995 champ. 4 times now at the final table. Queen 9 offsuit.
And from the big blind, Harrington gets a discount to come into the pot, and he will.
Raymer with the advantage with his ace going to the flop. Both players benefit. Raymer's pair of jacks is best. Dan Harrington checks. Greg Raymer bets $300,000.
Understandably, he has top pair right now.
I raise.
Harrington's going to be a player. He pushes in 900,000 of his chips.
Ay caramba. That's a semi-bluff of sorts. He's got middle pair. I can't believe he thinks he has the best hand.
I'll put him all in. I'll put them all in.
And chip leader Greg Raymer is going to raise, and Harrington pushes in the rest of his chips.
He's got a chance to knock somebody else out, except this time Fossil Man is well ahead in the hand as we go to the turn. Dan Harrington is in deep trouble.
Here comes a turn card. The 3 does not improve anybody's hand.
He's looking for that second championship, but Dan Harrington down to his final card. He would need a queen or a 9.
It's a 9!
I know.
Wow.
I know. From now on, I'm going to be behind in every single pot. I learned my lesson. I saw everyone being behind come from behind.
Fossil Man a bit shaken here.
It's unbelievable.
Harrington happily stunned that he lives to play another hand.
$225,000.
Action Dan.
You know I earned the name somehow.
And indeed he has.
I might be the only player that got to the final table over 3 decades. What's happening to me is more of a miracle than anything else. I'm not playing so much better than everyone else that I deserve to dance my way through all the bullets and get here. I'm trying to win the tournament, but one of the things that helped me tremendously in gambling, I just know the odds. I got 8% of the chips. My chances of finishing first are 8%. I think I'm better than the field. All right, so make that double. If you want to be real generous, that's what my chances are.
And Dan's chances are getting better every minute. He has about 9% of the chips right now, so according to his calculation, 18% chance of winning this. And he's got over 2.3 million chips. Raymer dropping just below the 8 million count now. The action is to Josh Arieh now from Atlanta, Georgia, looking at a king 9 offsuit. And he's going to raise it $225,000. Greg Raymer has been the action man at this table. He'll call. Dan Harrington now.
He is on the button, and that's the last to act. Those are rags.
I'm going to raise it. Raise it now.
Those are rags, Dan. 1.2 million.
This is action you usually don't see from Action Dan. This is a huge bluff he's trying to execute. 2 players are already in. If we couldn't see his whole cards, we wouldn't know he's trying to make this type of play.
Now over to David Williams. He's got an ace-queen unsuited. Those are good cards, but a tough decision for the young player. 3 players in before him. One of them, Harrington, just put in 1 million chips. David will fold.
And Harrington has a reputation of being very tight. That's why he can try to execute this bluff. He senses weaknesses in his opponents, but he's hoping his reputation will help them drop their hands.
It worked on Arieh.
That's all you read, Dan? The rest of them aren't red, right?
Right.
Okay, basically.
Now Raymer to act with the ace-deuce suited.
Inside of Dan Harrington, he's trying to transmit a message to Raymer. Get out, get out.
Dan would be in serious trouble if Raymer did call this.
Give him the money.
Raymer folds. Dan Harrington adds 500,000 chips to his stack, bluffing with a 6-2 offsuit. Now that's poker, baby.
The Toyota Points Leader is brought to you by Toyota Tundra Double Cab. Not just big, life-sized.
After 6 weeks of tournament play, one name has stood out above all the rest.
Daniel Negreanu's my hero.
Daniel Negreanu made it to 5 final tables here at the World Series and earned 1 bracelet on his way to climbing atop the Toyota Points leaderboard as the most consistent player throughout the tournament. He made no secret this was his goal, and indeed he did reach the top of the mountain. And for that effort, he'll be driving home a Toyota Tundra double cab pickup. And Daniel is in attendance here today watching the championship table. His mom, of course, never far away.
Shouldn't he give her the better seat?
She's probably got the car. Matt Dean, he only started playing poker within the last year. Here he is at the championship table. Second at chips as we began the day with an ace-5 offsuit. And he will raise 225,000 chips. They say anyone can win.
Anyone but us.
Josh Arieh with ace-deuce.
He's in the big blind, and he'll come in for the discounted price.
So two players will go to the flop. And here it comes 5-4. King Matt Dean pairs his 5. Arieh checks. Arieh working on a straight. And Matt Dean bets 200,000.
Just a gut shot straight, and Josh calls. He's in a gambling mood.
What's new? To the turn card. And there you go. Josh Arieh made that gut shot straight. He's got the wheel.
It's the joker for him, and he will spring into action now. What's a sloppy bet?
400,000 chips spread across this table.
Don't want to see what his garage looks like. Big bet over to Matt Dean.
He started the day with almost 5 million chips. And Matt Dean is going to risk about 1.1 million of them with his pair of 5s.
Oh, he's made a move here, and unfortunately for Matt Dean, he's picked a very bad time.
Josh's wife Angela enjoying the final table action.
All in.
That's going to push it all in and test Matt Dean's resolve.
Well, Matt's been pretty quiet today. Hasn't had a lot of opportunities to play a lot of hands, Lon. And now he's in a horrendous spot. This is tough to call. He could be drawing dead for all he knows.
And he will fold. A good but expensive laydown for Matt Dean. He lost about 1/3 of his chips to the very aggressive and very confident Josh Arieh.
Thank you. I mean, I'm the best player at the table. I knew that if I kept playing at the top of my game and didn't give up, I deserved to be here.
Yeah! Yes, Ray!
I know there's a couple guys out there that are thinking the exact same thing, but these guys have no prayer. Let's gamble, man. It's just such a long time awaited. It's all those hours of experience, all those hands that I've seen. I mean, I know what to do.
All in call.
I'm gonna get these chips.
He's won the pot.
I mean, it's my time.
He may be the best player, as he says, but in terms of how he acts at the table, he's not the best person. Josh has a lot of growing up to do, Lon.
But Josh has made the biggest strides today. He began the final table with about 3.2 million. He's added about 2.5 million to that stack. On the other end of the spectrum, Matt Dean began the day second in chips, and he has been dropping like the mercury in December since then.
Indeed, Matt Dean, just being blinded off, keeps dropping in chips, and finally he's gotten involved in a couple of hands.
So Dean with an ace-10 offsuit, over to David Williams with a couple of aces.
Matt Dean's got involved in the wrong hands. We saw what happened against Arieh, and now he gets raised by David Williams, 500,000.
Some people might slow play aces. We haven't seen David Williams slow play anything.
Williams bets and calls his hands quite quickly and quite decisively. It's his style.
And Matt Dean will call the raise from David Williams, and we'll go to the flop. It's 8-3-8, no help for Dean.
And Mr. Williams with a hammerlock on this hand.
And he comes out with 300,000 chips.
And Matt Dean, as you said, no help on the flop and very little hope in this hand if he wants to stay in. I got a feeling we're not going to see him stay in.
Come on.
A call.
Matt Dean all in. Oh, and in trouble.
Oh boy, he got impatient here, Lon. Matt Dean picked a couple of bad spots against Arieh and Williams to get aggressive.
Matt Dean only has a 1 in 100 chance to stay alive in this tournament. The turn card's a 3. That seals the deal. David Williams wins the hand. Matt Dean eliminated. David Williams continues his rush today.
A great run for Matt Dean, the school teacher. Handled himself well.
1 year ago, he watched the World Series of Poker on TV, took up the game, and now goes out here this year at 7th place. Amazing. Now 6 players are left, and the $5 million first prize making its way to the final table.
The greatest rounders in the world, together at one table. The World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions, featuring Johnny Chan, Phil Hellmuth, Doyle Brunson, and Howard Lederer. It's winner take all.
Oh, he wins the hand!
For $2 million. The 2004 World Series of Poker Tournament of Champions, September 21st at a special time, 8:10 on ESPN.
And here come the boxes upon boxes of money. $5 million cash.
Thank you.
And they are stacking it up within sight, but just out of reach of the remaining 6 players. Most who have been in this position say it doesn't affect their play, but you cannot ignore that stack.
It is prettier than hell.
If Josh wins that money, maybe he can buy a shirt he can wear to a nice restaurant.
And that is just the winner's share of the purse here at this year's World Series of Poker, $5 million.
Yeah, when you won, did you just carry it all out in a big bag, or what happened?
And I had him reduce it to a check.
I bet they wouldn't take a check in the old days. Johnny Moss, Doyle, give me the cash.
Well, Dan knows the old days. I think his photograph might be on some of that money.
Greg Raymer, our chip leader, with an ace-queen offsuit. He will bet 200,000 chips. Harrington and Glenn Hughes will fold to Josh Arieh.
In the small blind.
King 9 suited. And his patented sloppy call. Over to Al Krux, bracelet winner in 1996.
Krux in the big blind, and he decides to call with his ace-9 offsuit.
3 to the flop. Raymer and Krux pair their aces.
And Josh, who paired his king, checks.
Al Krux will check also. Greg Raymer now to act. I don't see him as a checking kind. And he comes out with a $500,000 chips. Josh likes his kings, and he'll call.
I'm all in.
And Al Krux going all in.
And Al Krux makes his stand with his aces, but his kicker is not as good as Raymer's. He's going to have to hope that Fossil Man drops out of this.
The family of Al Krux, who have ridden with him on his roller coaster professional poker life.
Raise.
Oh, Fossil Man going nowhere.
Raymer pushes in $1.5 million chips, calling Al Krux and putting the heat on Josh Arieh.
Josh has that look. It's your party and I'm not invited, and he gets out of the way.
So Raymer and Krux to the turn. Greg Raymer, the chip leader, with a huge advantage over Al Krux.
And Krux needs a lot of help to stay alive here in the main event. He is a huge underdog.
Come on, baby.
Now the turn card. 3 of spades, nothing for Al Krux.
And this is what it comes down to for Krux. To stay alive, he will need a 9, or there would be a split pot if there's a 3 on the river.
It's a 7, and it's the end of the line for veteran Al Krux.
That was quite a plan again. That was fantastic.
Al, you did it. I mean, you understand coming in this position was tougher than winning a tournament 10 years ago.
Nice gesture on Dan Harrington's part for anybody to get to the final table, wading through this field of almost 2,600 players with a huge accomplishment.
In 1990, Krux finished 6th in the main event. In 1994, he finished 5th, and now he again finishes in 6th and takes home $800,000.
You did good. Guess what you won?
What?
Guess what you won?
800,000.
Yeah, but look at the 8. It's not 5 million, but it's the 8.
Al Krux goes out in 6th place, takes one look back at the table and the money and what might have been. 5 players remaining, each one now guaranteed at least $1 million. The hole cards of Josh Arieh, a couple of 3s. He wouldn't go in with a couple of 3s, would he?
He would go in with 1 3 and a Cracker Jack box.
And would win the hand, maybe $225,000 from Arieh to Greg Raymer, who will call from the button. Dan Harrington Guaranteed another million here at the final table. 10-6 offsuit.
Yeah, that's a bad hand in blackjack and poker.
Over to Glenn Hughes from Scottsdale, Arizona.
I'm all in.
He's all in, Lon.
With about 1.5 million chips. Now to Josh Arieh, who will fold his threes.
I think we got a race, if I call. A coin toss.
Rock and roll. Came to gamble.
Fossilman's been calling this situation all day. Big stack poker.
Okay, I'll call.
And he does it again. Raymer with his pair of fives. Hughes, king, queen with his tournament life at stake.
You could say you busted everybody but one person so far. I'm the only one who's busted someone.
I don't care.
Raymer has been the force at this table. Now with a flop, he still leads with his fives.
A jack, king, or queen? Give me a jack, king, or queen.
You know what he needs to stay alive.
Not the 10.
Jack, king, or queen? Come on, dealer, you can do it. You can do it. Give it to me.
The river card.
Give it to me, dealer.
It's a 9, not enough, and Glenn Hughes is gone.
Congratulations. You were great. You played great. Played great, too. $1 million.
Presto! Thank you.
So Glenn Hughes goes out in 5th place, but $1 million consolation. Not everybody went away from the main event so happy as we see in this musical edition of The Nuts.
Tell me why I'm still crying over you.
I'm out.
Tell me how I wound up such a fool.
No!
Tell me when these heartaches will be through. Oh, tell me why I'm still crying over you.
It's very unlucky cigarette. I better change it.
You just knocked out Man the Master, buddy.
I'm probably not going to get his autograph now.
See the call I made him?
Yeah, it's a good
Is anybody out there rooting for me?
Doyle busted my.
Lasted longer than last year.
Tough day for the pros.
Tell me why I'm still crying over you.
Bye.
Tell me how I wound up such a fool. Tell me when these heartaches will be through.
Thank you.
Oh, tell me why.
What can you do?
I'm crying over
We have seen so many memorable exits, and now we will see 3 more before one of these men walks away with $5 million. There it is, the gallery of winners. And there are 4 players left hoping to reserve a place where one has already left his mark.
I don't care how nonchalant they act, they're intimidated by me being at the table. It gives me a huge edge.
I've got as much experience this late in the tournament as anybody but Dan. I'm out here to take this money home.
I let other people make mistakes and try to capitalize so I can punish them for it.
Whoever wins is considered the best in the world. And you don't want to get into a hand with me unless you're pretty sure you're going to win.
Greg Raymer approaching 15 million chips. The short stack is at 2.2 million. Josh Arieh. And Arieh in position to act right now. He will fold.
Raymer folds, and now over to Harrington in the small blind.
8-6 offsuited. And he's reaching, and he will call the big blind. Over to David Williams now.
And David with 3-2 suited can play the hand without putting any more chips in.
So Harrington with the advantage going to the flop. 9-5-2. David Williams pairs his deuces.
Neither player looking at a whole lot, Lon.
First to act will be former champion Dan Harrington. And he'll bet $250,000, and Williams right behind him with the call.
Yeah, that was a bluff attempt by Harrington. He's got an inside straight draw, and Williams would not comply.
And the turn is another 3, and Williams, who played from the big blind for free, has 2 pair.
Harrington puts on the brakes after that first bluff didn't work.
I know it's a short table, but 8-6 offsuit. David Williams comes out with $500,000.
I'm going to raise it.
Wow, Dan's gonna bluff at this again.
And he's going to push them all in. Over 2 million chips from Dan Harrington.
Call.
And David Williams with his 2 pair calls.
Dan went all in on a bluff. He only has a draw. A 7 or a 4 will give him a straight. So now Harrington's remarkable, almost unthinkable back-to-back run at the final table in the main event is 1 card away from being over.
The river card, it's a 3, and that gets Williams a winning full house, closing the door on Dan Harrington.
Well played. Honored to play with you. I wish we won last year.
Last year, a field of 839, and Harrington finished 3rd. This year, a field of 2,576, and Harrington finished 4th. Incredible.
And an incredible moment for young David Williams, who just knocked off a poker legend, celebrating with family and friends.
Thank you. And Lon, even though Dan Harrington doesn't win here tonight, the fact that he made his way through these 2 huge fields to the championship table the last 2 years, I'll say it again, it's the best accomplishment in World Series history.
We are now down to 3 players at this 2004 World Series of Poker final table. The blinds, 50,000 and 100,000. Josh Arieh is the short stack at this table. David Williams, 23 years old, 8.5 million chips. And Greg Raymer has been leading this table all day, almost 15.5 million chips.
And he's the senior citizen at this table at age 39.
Greg Raymer bets 250,000 chips with ace-queen offsuit. His wife, Cheryl, anxiously looking on. David Williams with an ace-8. And he will call. Josh Arieh got at least a 9, couple of 9s.
All in.
This is the moment for Josh Arieh.
1.305.
All of his chips are in the pot, his tournament life on the line.
Call.
Raymer has done this all day. He can risk about 10% of his chips.
Interesting.
To try to knock out another player.
Call. Let's triple him up.
David Williams is not going to play.
It's a race.
So Raymer with his ace-queen, Arieh with 2 9s to the flop.
I ain't won one yet. Why start now?
Raymer has run good in these situations.
And here comes a flop. Oh! Trip queens.
He's played well, but he has really been lucky in these heads-up coin flips. And now Josh will be looking for a 9.
The 3 and the dark is closing in on Josh.
A 9 and a 9 only keeps Josh's World Series hopes alive.
The river card. And the World Series is over for Josh Arieh.
You were my toughest opponent for all time. You were the one to beat.
Hey, buddy, I was pulling for you. I was
Bust this mother.
and I wasn't even gonna be shady and call and check it down. No
Bust this
bullshit.
mother.
Fossil Man takes out another player here at the final table.
Who could doubt it? Come on.
Hats off to Josh Arieh. He played great poker. He ran into some tough luck runs. I'm hoping that his people skills catch up to his poker skills.
A congratulatory hug from his wife, Angela. 3rd place, $2.5 million for Josh Arieh. And we are down to 2, David and the Goliath of this year's final table.
The World Series of Poker is brought to you by Milwaukee's Best Light. Milwaukee's Best Light, brewed for a man's taste. And Levitra. Ask your doctor about it today. Levitra, when it counts.
Welcome back to the 2004 World Series of Poker presented by Miller High Life. We are down to heads-up play. The money has been brought to the table, and these 2 men are ready to compete for the World Champion of Poker title and $5 million. Greg Raymer has been our chip leader throughout most of the main event. Right now, he has a 2-1 chip lead on David Williams, who at 23 could be the youngest main event champion ever, supplanting Phil Hellmuth.
This is no limit Texas Hold'em, Lon, but no one from Texas has won this title since Doyle Brunson in 1977. David Williams, a senior at SMU, could be the next Texan to win it.
We mentioned Raymer has a 2-to-1 chip advantage, but if Williams doubles up just once, he'll have the 2-to-1 advantage over Raymer. David Williams with a king 7 bets $350,000 to Greg Raymer with a queen jack unsuited. Raymer will call and put on those infamous glasses.
If Raymer seals the deal here, Lon, these glasses will be the most popular item in poker rooms across America.
Here comes the flop, 10, 3, 4. Nobody gets a piece of that.
Yeah, that's pretty ugly for both of them, and Raymer will check.
David Williams will bet 400,000 chips.
He doesn't have much of a hand, but he's going to be aggressive and hope to push out Raymer, who does have less of a hand than David Williams.
The fossil comes off, the cards are folded.
Nickel and diamond.
Well, David's going to have to nickel and dime millions of chips off of Raymer. He didn't get that many on that hand.
But David Williams does draw first blood here in this heads-up match at the championship table.
Contrasting styles between these two. Raymer has been the more aggressive player, Williams much tighter, and they've both made it work.
Now David Williams with an ace-4 offsuit, and he will come out with 300,000 chips. Greg Raymer, first look at his hole cards, 2 8s.
You always love a pocket pair and heads up.
Raymer has a lot of chips to choose from, and he will make the call only. Raymer with a 2-to-1 advantage going to the flop. It comes out 4, 2, 5. David Williams pairs his 4, but he still trails Raymer's 8s.
Williams does pick up an inside straight draw.
Raymer checks, and David Williams bets 500,000.
He likes his hand. Middle pair, straight draw with the ace.
1.6.
And Greg Raymer likes his hand even more. Great read from Fossil Man. He will raise 1.6 million, and he's got the best hand right now.
David Williams already reaching for chips. We have seen him work so quickly throughout this tournament, and here he is making the call right away.
Williams sees low cards on the board, figured they would not help Raymer. What he doesn't figure is that Raymer does have a high pocket pair.
Shirley Williams in her most anxious moment of the whole tournament. Same could be said for Cheryl Raymer.
Fossil Man looks at that board and figures the only thing that could worry him is a higher pocket pair for Williams, and he doesn't think he has it.
And now the turn card. It's a 2, which pairs the board. Williams keeps improving his hand, and that's very dangerous because he still trails Greg Raymer.
2.5.
Raymer bets 2.5 million.
And immediately David Williams calls. Talk about being pot committed. Williams has put a boatload of chips in. In fact, he's put in 40% of his stack into this pot.
What a long way David Williams has come to be at this point of the tournament. With 17 players left, he had under 200,000 chips. Raymer had that on day 2.
Williams a 4-to-1 underdog as we go to the river. He can still come up with the best hand. If he gets a 4 for a full house, a 3 would give him a straight, an ace would give him aces up.
River card, another 2. Now both players have full houses. Raymer has the better full house. He can only lose if he folds.
All in.
And he's all in.
And that would put David Williams all in. And if David Williams calls, it's all over. Greg Raymer would be the champion.
Call.
And Williams will call. The cards are turned. Raymer wins it all. Raymer has bested the biggest tournament field in poker history. He wins the $5 million and is the 2004 World Series of Poker champion. David Williams takes $3.5 million for second place.
The new era of poker continues. 2 years ago, an amateur, Robert Marconi, won. Last year, an online amateur, Chris Moneymaker, won. And this year, another online qualifier, Greg Raymer.
That was great.
Shirley Williams could not be prouder of her son. She was there for every hand. Greg Raymer went against many themes of this year's World Series. He's not a brash young gun at his first World Series. He is a confident part-time player who played the best poker of his life. Greg Raymer first garnered attention here at the World Series only for his unusual glasses.
I look at his eyes and I'm confused.
Can you talk about that pronounced stare down?
Well, it's easy to have a pronounced stare down when you can't blink.
Can I try your glasses again?
But behind those silly glasses lied a serious, aggressive poker player.
All in.
Who never backed down from a challenge.
I got big. You got little.
Just joking.
As the tournament wore on, he accumulated chips. Fossil Man made the field become extinct, knocking out player after player after player on his way to a record payday.
Maybe it's just me, but doesn't $5 million seem like a lot of money to you?
It sure does now.
Presto!
It's hard to imagine. I can't imagine $5 million in my pocket.
The once unimaginable is now reality. After outlasting nearly 2,600 players, Greg Raymer is the 2004 World Series of Poker champion.